Hello and welcome to Good Morning America Health. I'm Rob Simmelcare. When it comes to our health, women seem to come out a lot stronger than men. It turns out that men, like me, are 24% less likely than women to get health checkups, and they're more likely to be hospitalized for illnesses that could have easily been prevented. The federal government has launched an ad campaign to help persuade men to get their routine checkups. Let's take a look at one of those ads.
So here are the keys. Congratulations, it's officially yours. I'm sure you'll have many happy years here. Except for you, because you'll be gone 3 years from now, struck down by the same disease that got your father. So you won't be around for them. And sadly, it could have been detected early with a simple test, but you didn't have it. Okay, who wants to check out the backyard?
And for more on this, we are joined by Dr. Donica. Hi, doctor. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for joining us. So I just found out from my doctor that it had been 3 years since I got a regular checkup. I'm 37 years old. Not a good idea. Why are men like me so hostile or reluctant to go to the doctor?
I think it's resistant, but I should be asking you that question. Why did it take you 3 years?
Because I felt fine.
Right, and that's
honestly
the answer that most men give, is that I felt fine, but that's really betraying an underlying philosophy of what I call the ostrich approach. And that is, if I put my head in the sand and I don't get my blood pressure checked and I don't get my cholesterol checked, I won't know if I have any risk factors. And many men are just as afraid of asking directions as they are asking for help.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So what did you think of that PSA? I thought it was interesting. It certainly got my attention. Do you think it's going to be effective?
I think it is. It is going to be, I think it's very provocative. Certainly it's going to appeal to every man who's a parent. And I think that's what they were going for, is there's no more potent motivator to any parent than saying, you might not be around to see your kids graduate from high school, or you might not be around to move into this new house with your family, or you might leave your wife stuck with the mortgage payments. When
should men really start focusing on going to the doctor? I know there are certain milestones you get to where certain screenings and things like that start to come into play. What are some of the real milestones men should think about?
Well, this is very important, and certainly think about ages and stages. And this is why women have an advantage over men in many respects with respect to their health care, because women, we're all over them from a very young age. You have to go every year for your pap smear. You have to go for your prenatal checkups. You have to go for contraception. Men don't have those kind of milestone motivations. So I want men to think about, from the time they turn 21, it should be every 2 years for a regular physical checkup, whether you have a problem or not. Now, what's the overriding health risk that we worry about? Or why is the government spending money on an ad campaign to get men to the doctor? It's because heart disease is the #1 killer of men as well as women, and it's the overriding contributor to our health care costs. 80% of risk for heart disease can be reduced or prevented. And that's what the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality is getting at with these recommendations for specific tests that men should get at certain ages.
And we'll get into some of those specific screenings in just a minute, but for the women in our audience, how do women get the men that they care about, their husbands, their fathers, their brothers, to go to the doctor when they can't get them to stop and ask for directions?
Well, this appeals to the strength of women, particularly married women are experts at this, and that is the time-honored tradition of nagging. You know, nagging works, but what this ad campaign is getting at is the guilt from kids. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I got my father to stop smoking by consistently flushing his cigarettes down the toilet because I was terrified of the long-term risks I was learning about as a kid of smoking. So kids can really influence their parents' behavior more often than parents can influence the kids' behavior.
Okay, so there are a number of screenings, 13 in particular, that men should be focused on getting. We're going to run through those and sort of point out, you know, when they should start getting them and what they're really for. So let's dive right into that.
And this list is available at online at ahrq.gov/healthymen, so they can get the whole list.
Very good. All right, so where do we start?
We're going to start with colorectal cancer because, of course, cancer is one of the most feared diseases of all people, and colorectal cancer is the #1 cancer killer of men. Many men have heard that you need a colonoscopy at age 50. This is a very scary test because the last thing men want doctors doing is looking at their butt. It's embarrassing, it's awkward, but you get anesthesia. So you're put out. Of course, you need digital rectal exams for a good 10 years before that. Yes, it's embarrassing, but it could save your life.
And for certain groups, they need to start even earlier than age 50.
Absolutely, and that's a very important point. Anybody who's had a family member, certainly a father, brother, sister, mother with colon cancer, we want to start the colorectal screening a good few years before that other relative was diagnosed.
What are some other cancer screenings that are really important for men?
Well, one of the most controversial tests for men is the PSA, or prostate screening blood test. And we used to say that all men should talk to their doctors about this at age 40. Now AHRQ is not saying that all men should have this test at 40, but you should have a conversation with your doctor about it.
And also, I mean, I know for men in their 20s, there's testicular cancer, which is an issue as well, so it starts even earlier.
And we don't teach men to check themselves.
Right.
We teach women to do breast self-exams. We should be teaching men to do testicular exams. We should also teach men that anything wrong down there should take you to the doctor, do not pass go. But the other cancer issue that men in their 20s need to really be concerned about is skin cancer. Skin cancer is an increasingly common disease. Melanoma, the worst form of skin cancer, is the #1 cancer killer of men and women in their 20s. And this is not something they think about because men in their 20s, of course, think they're absolutely immortal and invulnerable and they're like Superman.
That's
and
right.
things that
That's
cause
right.
disease and disability don't affect me.
Okay, now heart disease, the #1 killer you mentioned, we're almost out of time. What are some of the screenings that are crucial for men in starting the preventative care for heart disease?
Most important thing is screening for obesity, so that's your body mass index. There's all kinds of calculators online to do that at home. Blood pressure is extremely important. You really want your blood pressure checked every 2 years unless you have a family history of blood pressure, high blood pressure. That should be every year. That's extremely important for African American men and Hispanic men who are at increased risk. Cholesterol, extremely important. And then tests for diabetes. And the punchline is, each of these things is an independent risk for heart disease. Now, if you are at risk for heart disease, 2 conversations are going to be very important to have with your doctor. #1 is, should I be, especially if you're over 40, should I be taking a baby aspirin on a regular basis for preventive health care? And also, are there any other screening tests I should have, such as an EKG or a stress test? And this is not going to be for everybody, but you need to have a conversation with your doctor about if this is right for you.
All right, so checkups once a year, get your screening. They're all available online, the list of 13, and women, nag your men. Those are the takeaways. Dr. Donica, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Important message. We appreciate your coming by. For more of the latest medical information, you can be sure to visit the health page at abcnews.com.